Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M1M, as you know, is the first global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these roundtables week after week after week. This is the 351st session. These roundtables have been running since the fall of 2008, when we started experimenting with this model of mentoring and, learning, entrepreneurship learning. And it blossomed into the 1 million by 1 million program in 2010. So the event is being recorded. You'll have a recording available. And by the way, we've just launched a podcast channel where, after many years of getting requests to make these roundtables available as podcasts, we've just got our act together and launched the first 26 interviews on the channel. Maureen will provide all that shortly. And then we'll take all our prior roundtables, especially where we have guest recordings, and launch them into the podcast channel as well. Meanwhile, though, you can find all the roundtable recordings at our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. Now, if you are live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Join us on Twitter at 1Mby1M and at Romana. We publish a lot of interesting content. And we are going to be opening the line up for calls. 6504-793208 is the call-in number. Access code 662-718-046. We're not quite ready for call-ins yet, but we will be, and this is a roundtable, so we want you to all participate as much as possible. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the public chat. I know some of you are saying hello. Tell us where you're joining from, what are you working on, how did you make your way to here, and we look forward to getting to know you through the rest of the session. We're going to start today with a special guest, Nilay Banker, CEO and founder of Inspyrus. I met Nilay a few months ago, and I found his story absolutely fascinating. So welcome, Nilay. It's great to have you here, and we are looking forward to introducing the podcast audience and the YouTube audience, as well as today's live show audience, to your story.
Thank you, Shramana. It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to your audience.
So tell us about Inspyrus. What do you do?
So we are actually a software company in the enterprise fintech space. So our goal is to help finance operations of very, very large enterprises. We attack a market that has traditionally been ignored. The big ERP companies have been selling their software to these multi-billion-dollar companies, and they have been doing things the same way for decades. Really innovation, except for just the way the application is accessed. So Inspyrus has been developing software for the past 8 years, focused really on innovation in the fintech space to optimize finance operations. And of course, we do not intend to replace the ERP systems, but instead augment the ERP systems like SAP and Oracle, and there are a lot of new ERP systems coming into the market, which are both cloud-based as well as provided on-premise. So that's our charter. We've been very successful. We have a product suite which comprises of invoice automation, which is focused on providing companies with a beautiful solution focused on automating their invoice processing within their accounts payable department. We provide a supplier central, which is engaging suppliers with the customers. and then providing total discounting, which is a very unique approach in how customers can save a lot of money by providing their suppliers with early payments, and in turn, the suppliers provide discounts for receiving those early payments.
So this is the part that I find absolutely fascinating, that you hit upon an opportunity to save a lot of money by managing the terms of these invoices. You know, as our audience is full of small businesses, you would appreciate this. Everybody needs cash, right? And you need cash as early as possible, otherwise cash flow management becomes a challenge. So if large clients are willing to pay in better terms, whether, you know, maybe the actual general terms for the payment is 60 days, but if the large customer is willing to pay in 30 days, very often smaller companies would be willing to cut a deal and offer maybe a discount. And that's what you identified, you pinpointed, and you kind of automated doing at scale, right?
That is absolutely true. And in fact, you know, the concept of early payment discounts is by itself not new. It's been around for decades. But the way it has been provided in the ERP systems and the way customers and suppliers approach that has been, in my opinion, the wrong approach. And that is why it has never been successful. The benchmarks say that, you know, less than 5% of early payment discounts are actually realized. Mm-hmm. The potential is humongous. There are companies whose payables are in the billions of dollars. And if we just take a very small percentage of that, they have the opportunity to save tens of millions every year, if not hundreds of millions, through early payment discounts. There is also a mindset. Why it's really fascinating that people believe that instead of paying their suppliers early, if they were to just put that money in a bank, in a savings account, they're going to make more interest, which is really contrary, especially in this low interest rate environment. If we do the math, you get about 1 to 2% rate of return by putting money in a bank. Instead, if you were to pay your suppliers early, then you have the potential to save between 2 to 5% of the invoice amount, which translates to between 24 and 48% of APR, which is mind-boggling compared to the 1 to 2% you get in a bank. And interestingly enough, when we take this concept to a lot of our large customers, a lot of them are fairly innovative, new technology companies, the traditional mindset of putting money in the bank and not paying their suppliers early. So the approach we have taken is a combination, is enabling our customers to be able to make those payments early. That is through invoice automation. Before Inspyrus is deployed in an organization, typically a customer spends between 15 to 20 days to process, on an average, an invoice. With Inspyrus in place, that goes down to between 2 to 3 days, and even faster in a lot of cases, which means we have now enabled our customers to pay their suppliers early. And then it's a matter of helping our customers understand the math and enabling them to engage with the suppliers so that the suppliers feel comfortable with this management program, as we call it. And the real benefit is both sides. You brought up a good point, right? We're all entrepreneurs here. we are not multi-billion-dollar companies. We always want cash early. Who wouldn't want to get cash early and invest in doing the right thing? If I just take the case of Inspyrus, absolutely, I would love to get paid second, third day, and I'm willing to pay a small discount for that because with that money, I can do so much. I can invest in R&D, I could have a capital expenditure. There's so much I can do, which is true for almost every small and medium supplier and even large suppliers. Cash is king.
Yeah. So, Nilay, talk to me a little bit about how you got this insight. I mean, what is it in your background that led you to going for this problem? How did you even become aware of that this is the problem that you want to solve over 8 years?
So, interestingly enough, I have no finance background. I am a
That's what I thought. You're an engineer, right?
A computer technologist at heart. I got my master's in computer science at Stanford. I had no idea what accounts payable was. I did not know what finance operations mean. And I spent a good 10 years at Oracle doing product development. And I worked as part of their middleware group. Had a lot of fun. This was when Oracle was a very small company. This is in '94. And there were 5,000 employees. And Oracle, you know how it has grown over the past 20 years.
120,000 people now.
Exactly. But when I was at Oracle, we used to work like startups. We had small groups of people building and innovating and building software as a startup company. So I had a great experience there. And then I went to work for a manufacturing company to see the other side. How is software being used by companies that run softwares like Oracle or SAP and so on? And that's when it dawned on me that, there is this big gap between software manufacturers and the actual users. And so I even started my own company. Our first initiative was just management consulting. We used to go to large enterprises, just a handful of us, and help these companies with business process engineering, taking their horizontal business processes and helping them come up with a better way of doing things, optimized operations, and blending that with technology solutions. So really a specialized management consulting firm that brought in a unique flavor of technology. And this whole problem area around finance operations actually just fell in our laps when one of our customers say, hey, we have a problem in our finance department. Can you help with that? So a few of us, we've been quite familiar with the entire procure-to-pay space, but issues around operations in the finance department go really deep. And so it took us a lot of digging in, and we did bring in some experience and expertise as part of our team who really have been in this space for a lot of years. And then the version 1 of our product really was something based purely on a customer's requirements. So, and that's the genesis of our product. It's helping one customer to start with, making sure we understand their problem really deep and making sure that we are very, very successful with them. And in my opinion, there is nothing more valuable than having a customer-funded development with a real problem that we are solving, because that's the reality. We are helping a customer who's facing a problem. We're helping them solve the problem, and we're making them successful. And in the end, we have valuable IP, which we can then translate into whatever we want. It could be services, it could be products, it could be a combination of the two. And that's what we did. That was version 1 of our product.
So this methodology that Nilay is discussing, folks, is one that we've seen over and over again, bootstrapping using services. What does that do? It gets you close. You do a service project of some kind, management consulting, or even contract software services sometimes, and you get really close to a customer and a customer problem, and it gives you insights. It really deeply helps you understand the business process, and then very often we've seen entrepreneurs derive great product ideas out of those engagements and turn them into really, really successful companies. And what's funny is that Oracle did the same. Larry Ellison actually went to do a services project, and he came up with the idea of the Oracle database, and then he looked at the client and he says, okay, I just need to stop all this and go build this product and turn it into a real, really large business. But it's this bootstrapping using services methodology works very well. And I know a lot of quote unquote advisors who don't believe in this, and they tell you like, oh, you lose focus, blah, blah, blah. I will go on record to say that it is a tried and true strategy, and Nilay is one of many, many examples of entrepreneurs who have turned this into a very successful business. So I completely stand by this methodology.
Yeah, and if you actually think about it, most of 80% of the problem is common across all customers. So if you are able to make one customer successful, you have solved 80% of the problem. And as you go from customer to customer, there are nuances around requirements and how they perform their operations. Each customer has a different set of products they sell, different set of services they sell. They are in different geographic locations. They may be having a different internal business process. So you are never going to be able to build a product that 100% fits every single customer. But you get a start by, I would say, building a product which matches 80% to start with, and then you start getting closer and closer to that 100%. You will never get there. But what you do is you want to get closer to that 100%, and then provide enough flexibility, enough configurability in your product so that you can address problems for customers from different verticals, and in our case, from different ERP systems, which is something very, very unique to what Inspyrus does. We are not tethered to any underlying ERP system. Our application, our solution, and all the three facets of it that I talked about works beautifully with any major ERP system, and that's actually our claim to fame. So, think out of the box.
But Nilay, can you go back to when you started, when you identified the problem and you decided that you were going to build your company on this premise? How long did it take you to build a first product that, let's say, was 80% there, and you could start selling with? The rest was configurable, the rest you had to extend, integrate, etc. But how long did it take you to start selling the product?
It took us 6 months.
Okay.
By then, we had version 1 of the product, which we were then able to take and start selling to additional customers. We continue to develop the product. We haven't stopped building it. But yeah, the first version was about 6 months.
And did you make a choice on which ERP system you were going to do the first version on?
Yeah, so the first version was actually based on the requirement of that first customer, and we built it as an extension to Oracle's e-business suite.
Okay.
The foresight, fortunately, we had at that point was to develop it in such a way, and this is where entrepreneurs should think, right? That initial investment is always painful, but it's about architecting your product right at the very beginning. From the ground up, we built it in such a way that it could be extended to any
to
ERP.
other systems.
And we also, this is 9 years back, we also developed in such a way that it was cloud enabled. So, which has now enabled us very, very naturally to have a cloud-based version of our product, the same version which is also available for on-premise.
Interesting. And probably a logical question from here is, how have you used partnerships? Clearly, since there is such a natural kind of handshake with these ERP systems. One, how have you staged the partnership, and two, what do those partnerships bring you? Are the partners bringing you into their client base? How are you leveraging these partnerships?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's these large ERP companies that have a definite gap in their product who we appeal to. They are the ones we partner with. We partner with the Oracles and the SAPs and now the new age ERP companies. And we help them fill a pretty important gap in their product set. So we partner very closely with them. And in fact, we help them sell their product and they help us sell our product. So when we go to a prospective customer, we generally go together as partners. And it's very clear to the customer what they bring to the table and what Inspyrus brings to the table. So there's a very clear distinction. And then it's about selling value of our product. And that has actually worked out really well with all of these partners because...
and you are selling direct? You have a direct sales channel?
We have a direct sales channel as well. So yes, the first few years we were very dependent on a lot of these very large ERP companies, and now we have a direct sales channel. We also, for the past 4 years now, we, just like any software company, we can't do everything by ourselves in terms of selling and implementing the software. So we have our own implementation partners and channel partners, and we continue to expand that in different parts of the world. So we're looking to expand in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, in Asia, Middle East, and so on. And we have channel partners in all of these regions. So it's, again, a win-win for the partners as well. They get to extend their reach. They have additional products in their portfolio that they can implement. And we get to expand Inspyrus in different parts of the world.
So partnerships has been a very big part of your success.
Oh, absolutely. We could not have done, and we cannot do it without partners. So, which is probably true for a lot of companies like ours.
So, if you talk about your business model, you've done something very interesting with your business model. Talk both about the uniqueness of your business model, but also talk about the evolution of the business model.
So, being in Silicon Valley, I think we are an outlier. Not many people use services to bootstrap and develop products and then continue to do it without VC funding. But that's an approach that really worked for us. We did not need to get...
I was actually, we'll come to that in a moment, but I was thinking about your gain share and, we'll come to financing. That is a very interesting topic, and we will come to that in full blast, but let's first do the gain share business model.
Absolutely. So if you think about the traditional way in which software companies sell their products, traditionally it has been software licenses and annual support. That has gone on for years, right, which the customer spends a bulk of money up front, and then every year they pay between 15 to 25%, sometimes even 30% of annual support, traditional model. These days, there's software as a service, and that's generally driven on a subscription model. So either the customer pays you every month or every year based on how much of their software you use. In all cases, the customer is paying you based on their usage of the software or how much, how their software is deployed on how many servers. What we are experimenting with, and we've been quite successful, is a different model, which is a value-based model. We have the ability to clearly identify how much value we are providing to our customers in terms of annual cost savings. So the gain share model is about the customer paying a percentage of the value we bring to them. In the case of invoice automation and total discounting, it is how much money we save their finance operations. If we can save them $1 million, we get 10% of it, or something to that effect, and the percentage varies. But this really is a very different approach from saying, Mr. Customer, irrespective of how much value you get out of your software, you're just going to pay us. The customers are beginning to really like this approach where it is the onus is on Inspyrus, on us to make them successful, to make sure that the customer really is able to save money from the software. And then we have analytics and dashboards that at any given time clearly shows them how much money Inspyrus is saving them. And then we can make a percentage of the money we are saving them. Again, a win-win for both of us.
And is this a pure gain share model, or do you charge some sort of a setup fee, some amount of subscription, and then take the bulk of the payment in gain share?
It varies. It all depends on how much the customer is comfortable with. So we try to make our pricing very flexible. There are some customers who prefer a pure gain share model. Others who say we're okay to take some upfront setup fees or software fees because we'd like to capitalize it. So it's a combination of depending on how the customer wants to finance their project.
And what kind of penetration in large enterprises where you are selling this solution, how aware are people of the fact that you can do something like this? There is huge cost savings to unlock, and how much is the adoption?
Actually, research says that the adoption is less than 2% right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is fabulous if you think about the possibilities.
Yeah, you have tons of headroom.
It's a lot of headroom. It's education. A lot of the finance executives and a lot of the upper management in most companies, number one, are not aware of the gain share model. Number two, they're not aware of the possibilities of savings through automation and discount management.
Yeah, awesome.
And even on the most modern companies that we go to, it's a matter of education.
Yeah. Super. So you have chosen, now let's get back to the financing question, you've chosen not to take any financing despite getting to above $10 million in revenue organically. What is your thinking behind this decision? I imagine all your friends from Stanford are left, right, and center raising big financing rounds and boasting about them and so forth, but you have clearly, sidestepped that whole mania around financing.
Yeah, actually, it's a model that worked for us. Fortunately, we've been able to grow organically. We've been able to, we're thriving, and the bootstrap model has worked for us. I'm not sure if there is anything right or wrong. There are different ways of achieving growth. And it's not that people haven't approached us. We get approached. I get approached every week from.
I'm sure.
And with the interviews I'm doing with you, I'm sure it's only going to get worse. Yeah,
I have this favorite saying is that do not go to VCs as beggars, go as kings. And you clearly are a king now. You've got 10 million plus in revenue, and all the VCs are coming chasing you. And exactly the position we want our entrepreneurs to be in. Whether you want the money or not, it's up to you, but you want to be in a strong, solid negotiating position, and you're clearly there. And whether you never take money or not, who cares? But you are in a strong position, and we just love to see entrepreneurs in this position.
You're right. You want to be in that position. That's exactly. And this is, we had dreamed to be in this position. Fortunately, we are here. And I never say never, but at this point, I think our model has worked really well for us.
Yeah. And where do you want to go from here? Is this something, clearly there's lots of headroom. It's only, this kind of solution only has 2% penetration in the market. There's huge TAM, huge growth possibility ahead of you. So when you think about what you want to do, are you building a company that is going to be a $100 million, $200 million company? Or is it something that I'm sure you're also getting acquisition offers, and all these partners that know you well, I'm sure are chomping at the bits to also bring you into their solutions. Where do you want to go?
So we have a lot of ideas. So obviously, we are not thinking about any kind of exit at this point. This is just the beginning. There's so much to do around finance operations, eventually expanding into the PP space, but we don't want to lose our focus. We do something and we do it very well, which is probably something that a lot of companies lose focus. They try to do everything. We want to be very good at what we do. There are definitely complementary solutions that we are beginning to develop. So we talked about 3 parts to our product suite. We have another 2 to 3 very, very important pieces that we are beginning to invest in. As of right now, really, we don't know where we're going to take this company. It's very exciting to be in the position where we are right now. It's a matter of just innovating and doing and thinking out of the box, which is what, fortunately, a lot of my coworkers and a lot of people at Inspyrus have that kind of mindset. Yeah,
well, and by virtue of the fact that you're a bootstrap company, you are also a profitable company, because the only way bootstrap companies survive is by being a profitable company. So it's a very sustainable model. No matter how long you want to go with it, you have a lot of discipline and cultural robustness and resilience built into it. So it's very inspiring, Nilay. I've loved your story. The first time I heard it, I loved it again today, and then I really wanted to bring it to a different set of our audience. And thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Pleasure's mine.
All right, folks, one thing I want to do today is we started doing some of this last time. There are a few tutorials I want to take you through. And if you're following some of our online work, we are doing a bunch of small, short videos that give you little bits and pieces of like 1-minute, 2-minute videos that give you little bits and pieces of tutorials. And these are based on stories of other entrepreneurs. Every single one of them is based on, it's like a trailer to Nilay's story, for instance. You've got this 30-minute, 35-minute time to spend with Nilay, but these are little lessons, but these are lessons based on other entrepreneurs' stories. So I want to give you a preview into a few of those, and then we can go to Q&A for, after that. So Maureen, if you could go to Go Big or Go Home is Total Nonsense, that would be awesome. So, we see an absolute disease in the startup ecosystem, people's clear obsession about raising financing. And we try to bring you story after story where people have succeeded without raising huge amount of financing, for sure, without raising huge amounts of financing right away. So I want to do Women Can Build Unicorns, and you'll see a slightly different version of this story with a different entrepreneur and how she did it. And this is a woman who has built a unicorn company, and I love her story. So Teresa's story is one of bootstrap first, raise money later. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Nilay and I, that once you have bootstrapped your company to a certain degree of success, it's the investors who are chasing you as opposed to you chasing investors, which you do early on in your history. If you have been successful, then the roles get completely reversed, and you will receive emails and calls from investors every week if you want to, once you have become a visible and public success. So in Teresa's case, she clearly became very successful before taking any money from, actually she took money from Silver Lake, a private equity firm, and now the company is public. And she's a fantastic entrepreneur, absolutely fantastic entrepreneur, and it's a clear case in point that you can actually bootstrap a unicorn. And in her case, she bootstrapped till right before IPO, just a couple of years before IPO, and then went public with $1 billion plus valuation. So all this is doable. And then the last piece I will do today, before we go to Q&A, is customers can be great investors. So Maureen, if you could go to that one. right, so this, by the way, is a little preview into something that you can do. Every single story that we just shared with you, just like Nilay's story, is fully developed as a case study on the blog. So all the stories that you got little previews into today, you can go and study those stories on the blog. And some of them actually have been here in the roundtables as well. Therese, for instance, has been at the roundtable. Dan Kane, the Modernizing Medicine, Customers Can Be Great Investor story. Dan, the hero of that story, Dan has been at these roundtables as well, so you can go look up those recordings. So, you know, the thing that I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs is that it's not easy to get time from people who have done it. They will not really have the time to sit down and have coffee with too many of you who are budding entrepreneurs or early stage entrepreneurs. But what we are trying to do at 1 million by 1 million is to, you know, get a one-to-many time, where today you got time with Nilay, and Nilay is still around, so he'll participate in the Q&A for a bit. But what we're trying to do is to give you ways to get to know their stories and get to know them and kind of simulate that experience of having coffee with them. So you are basically simulating the experience of having coffee with Nilay right now. So fire away. If you have questions for Nilay, go and set your chat to send to all participants so that everybody can see the questions, and you can ask your questions, and Nilay will answer, and if you have questions for me, I will answer. So let's go to Q&A. And please also introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're joining from, what you're doing, what kind of challenges you're facing. And while you're typing in your questions, Maureen has also put in our newly launched podcast channel information in the public chat. By no means are we against fundraising. So as what you will see in the podcast channel is the first thing we have released actually is a lot of interviews with VCs explaining what they are looking for. So it would be helpful to those of you who are thinking about raising funding. Listening to a bunch of VC discussions will give you perspective into how VCs look at deals, how they evaluate investment opportunities, trends, and so forth. So I would strongly recommend that you take a look at that and you know, familiarize yourselves with VC thought processes. So Maureen has a question from Cora. Should I build a startup on the side slowly or quit my day job to get funding and move faster? Nilay, what is your point of view? I have a, you know, we at 1M1M as a group have a point of view. I'm curious, what do you think about this question?
Well, you got to jump in. You have to jump in, and you have to be fully focused and committed. If you're not, I am not sure if it's going to work. That's my opinion.
So my opinion is the reverse of that. It's good that we disagree. So you get both perspectives. So we have incubated and accelerated a lot of companies using what we call bootstrapping with a paycheck. And we have tons of, we actually have a book on this service, just like we have a book on bootstrapping with services where we have, I think, somewhere between 12 to 16 case studies of entrepreneurs like Nilay who have bootstrapped using services. The same thing we've done for the bootstrapping with a paycheck model. We have 12 to 16 case studies of entrepreneurs who have bootstrapped with a paycheck. And as a matter of fact, there's one person who has built a unicorn company that is going to hit $1 billion in revenue, not valuation, $1 billion in revenue in 2018, doing a software as a service healthcare IT company. The name of the company is eClinicalWorks, and the entrepreneur is Girish Navani. He has been here at the roundtables, and you can get his case study on the blog. So this is a topic where Nilay and I don't completely agree, but both perspectives exist out there. Some people think you have to jump in with both feet, and we think that you can actually, often it takes time to validate an idea. It takes 24 months often to get real validation on an idea, and you have to pay the bills during those 24 months, and it's tricky.
Yeah. Whatever works, right?
Whatever works.
Oh, yeah.
Nilay, you have a question from Milind Agte. Is your gain share largely on savings generated through discounting, or is it also savings from invoice automation?
It's through both. And again, we give the customer the option to choose one or both. Again, as I said, it's flexibility in pricing. That's something as a company you need to provide to your customers, because pricing is one of the biggest inhibitors to being accepted. Simplify it and give flexibility.
Great. Folks, any other questions? And also, can you please introduce yourself? So we'd like to know who's in the audience and what kinds of projects are you working on? Remember, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast. Normally, we also have entrepreneurs pitching at these sessions. Today, because I wanted to get through more of these videos, we're gonna resume our entrepreneur pitches shortly. Folks, by the way, if you like what we are doing here in 1 Million by 1 Million, please refer serious entrepreneurs. Serious, the word serious is in bold. Why? Because there are a lot of companies, a lot of entrepreneurs who think that it's a very easy thing to just, kind of work for a few months and walk away with a few $1 million. This is not how entrepreneurship works. It takes a long, long time to build a successful company. So, as you can see, Nilay just told you the story of how he's built, how he's taken 8 years to build to over $10 million in revenues. But it's not something you can wing. It has to be done methodically and piece by piece. So those are the kinds of entrepreneurs who have realistic expectations and realistic ideas about what's involved, what it entails, that we are interested in working with. I'll give you a quick summary on the resources that you are, you can access shortly. We have a couple of questions again. Kari Sirja is introducing himself. Oracle employee listening in, a question: what if I have to share too much of my idea with potential investors and may lose it as a consequence if they steal the idea despite NDAs? First and foremost, investors do not sign NDAs. So you are going to actually share whatever you share with investors without signing any NDA. And investors typically don't steal your ideas. What may happen, sometimes it happens, is investor firms have entrepreneurs in residence who are basically sitting inside firms, and the privilege of entrepreneurs in residences are sitting in at hundreds of VC pitches by other entrepreneurs who come in to seek investment. And sometimes what they're doing sitting there is actually looking for ideas that they want to work on. So it happens, but that is just how the business works. And Maniram is saying, I'm having an IoT-based startup in India. I prefer to get funding in later stages so that I will not lose significant portion of your venture. Okay, great. Good, Maniram, very good. And I am sure you found Nilay's story very inspiring based on what you are looking to do.
Yeah. Ramana, one other thing I'd like to add, there are ways to protect your IP. Which you should consider.
Please go ahead, Nilay, elaborate on that.
Yeah, so if you have an idea, that is the most important thing. It's your biggest asset. Your intellectual property is your biggest asset, so protect it. And the way to do it is by filing patents. Get a hold of a patent attorney who you would trust, and make sure that you file patents as early as possible. It's not a very expensive proposition in the long run, but you want to protect yourself. Because people are very innovative, right? And there are different ways where you would lose your IP. So make sure you protect yourself.
So Nilay, again, there are certain ideas that are patentable. Not all ideas are patentable. You know, sometimes it's just a pure execution game. In software, more often than not, it's a pure execution game. I think your story, you have something sufficiently unique that that you are able to patent it. But very often there are, you know, fairly simple ideas that people have just on pure execution built interesting solutions and been able to win. In those cases, you kind of have to race to execution instead of trying to protect your idea, right?
Yeah, and it's and I'm not saying you do one versus the other. Obviously, there is no substitute for execution. You got to execute fast, and you got to be first to the market, and you got to move faster, keep the lead, and keep innovating. But at the same time, you want to protect yourself, because there could be somebody else with more funds, more people who can come in and swoop your idea and kind of, so it's making sure you protect yourself.
And the other thing, by the way, as a corollary to what we are discussing here about idea protection, if you're doing B2C, it becomes even more problematic, because in B2C, the trick is to get out to market as quickly as possible. Investors actually don't fund companies unless you show validation and even traction in B2C. So you just don't have a choice other than going out there and starting to sell. So for example, if you're doing e-commerce, maybe you have a unique idea with, you know, a certain niche that you want to do, but you're going to have to start doing it. And it's not something you would be able to patent. So I think to Nilay's point, you should evaluate. If you have something defensible, something patentable, you are in a better position, for sure. So if you are in that position, then do file a patent and protect yourself. But very often, you may also be in a situation where you have to get out to market and start validating, start proving traction, and you do not have something patentable, in which case it is largely an execution game. We have another question from Kari Sirja. Sometimes the best price, quality, functionality does not win, not even best fit. But what is the skill to get sales traction if there is no protection, door opener, big brand behind you to back you up? Nilay, do you want to take that?
That is true. Having a big brand behind you to back you up makes a big difference. Absolutely, and actually that's one of the reasons where Inspyrus had early success, right, in our initial years.
Yeah.
We had big brands to back us up, some big partners where
right.
They bring us more validation than we would be able to do it ourselves as a small company. And you are right, best price functionality, if quality or functionality doesn't always win, and that's why, you know, having the backing of a big company initially really helps you.
So Kari, one thing to think about is, you know, there are different types of customers in the market. There are customers who are early adopter customers who are keen to work with startups and innovators and jump into the market quickly. And it's a particular psychographic. If you read Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, he discusses it in in very great detail. By the way, Crossing the Chasm is a classic in terms of go-to-market strategy and positioning and so forth. So it's a must-read book for entrepreneurs, in my opinion. Where Jeffrey Moore discusses this a lot is this notion of early adopter. You want to find that early adopter customer psychographic. I will repeat in a moment, Mani. This early adopter customer psychographic is something that you are looking for in identifying which customers you want to invest a lot of time selling to. And there we go. Maureen has given you the name of the book, Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. So Kari, the answer is to partner, link with customers, with others who have reputation. In principle, if you can, that's great. I think the story that you just heard, Nilay's story, there was something very synergistic between what Nilay has been doing and what, you know, Oracle Financial or SAP's financial systems, they were lacking that functionality, and it was a clear, you know, fit to plug them into that gap, and it worked. But very often, you need to prove yourself with 1, 2, 3 customers before you would be able to get those larger companies to work with you. So, you know, synergy, partnership opportunities come in different flavors, different shapes and forms. So I would say if you can get a large partner to work with you, that's great, but working with large customers doesn't always come through right away. So you will need to learn to sell directly and close customers, especially the early customers who start validating your idea. And for that, look for these early adopter customers and read Crossing the Chasm to get the full pedagogy of that methodology. By the way, I have one other you know, point on your question about sometimes the best price quality functionality does not win, not even the best fit. Sometimes, actually, companies raise a lot of funding and create a lot of noise, but don't necessarily have the best product and don't manage companies tightly either. So that's a scenario where we've seen a lot of companies, overfunded companies, go out of business. There's a death by overfunding scenario, and if a really disciplined, tight company, like what you heard, you know, today, obviously, Inspyrus is a very disciplined, very tightly run company. A company like that ends up becoming the winner in a segment just because of very loosey-goosey execution with overfunded competitors. That's a scenario we've seen over and over again. We've seen lots of case studies of that scenario also. So folks, you can continue putting in your questions in the public chat. Let me very quickly introduce you to where to find the resources that we offer. Everything we offer starts at 1Mby1M.com. So the website is rich and full of material, information, resources. The blog is free, and it's full of case studies, inspiring case studies, one after another. And you would, just by following the blog, you will learn a lot. And then we have the Entrepreneur Journeys book series. We've published 12 volumes of those. We've discussed today in course of the conversation bootstrapping using services and bootstrapping with a paycheck in answer to some of the points that came up. There are lots of other books. Each of them have 12 to 16 case studies where you get to essentially simulate the experience of having coffee with a successful entrepreneur and learn from them. These roundtables happen every week. We've done over 350 roundtables at this point. The full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium, where we offer extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum, which is case studies and video lectures based that you can use at your own time. And then we have strategy consulting in roundtables like these, but these are private roundtables, members only. We help you with business development. We have a tremendous network, so you can access anybody that you want to access through our network, potential customers, channel partners, media analysts, and investors. We do help you with financing, but you have to be fundable. Not every company is fundable. So we'll help you diagnose where you are. We'll help you figure out your funding strategy. We will help you plug the gaps and create the material that you need to pitch for funding, and then we will introduce you to investors when appropriate. So yes, financing is definitely part of the program. And the other thing that pay attention to is media. You know, what you do in today's world, it's a very noisy world, and but at the same time, there's also a lot of avenues and channels through which you can get your story out there, information about your product, your service, what you have to offer. you can get all that out there very easily. So take advantage of that, and we have tremendous media channels. We will definitely let you use our channel as part of the premium membership so that you can get your word out there and get customers to come to you, get investors to come to you, and that inbound marketing is always very effective. 1M1M self-assessment is a set of questions which we want you to ask of yourself. These are questions that investors would ask you, but we don't want you to wait for investors to ask you these questions. You are the most important investor in your company. You ask yourself these questions and try to answer them. If you get stuck on methodology points, go use 1M1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only option, just $99 a month, and plug your methodology gaps and try to make sure that your strategic angles and strategic flanks are covered. That's pretty much it. There's tons of information on the website, FAQs, video FAQs, to answer your questions, to help you understand the program. It is a case study-based program. The whole thing is about learning from others who have done it before you and have done it well, done it successfully. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient, bootstrap startups. Yes, you can raise money, you will raise money, and hope you will raise money if you want to raise money, but you have to bootstrap first to fundability if you do that. Or you don't have to raise money, you can just keep going. That's pretty much it. We have 3 more roundtables in May. You are welcome to call in or continue asking questions in public chat, questions, comments, introductions, all of that is welcome. And while you're doing that, let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the program, feel free to contact Irina, and she will be very happy to talk to you further. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? And Nilay, parting comments. We are almost ending the close of the session.
No, thank you, Shramana. It's been a pleasure to be with you and your audience. I appreciate the opportunity and wish you all the best and wish everybody all the best.
Thank you for coming, Nilay. It was very inspiring.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, we are going to close out the session for today. Meet you back here. This is a working session, folks. So you will have opportunities to pitch your businesses in the next time round. So please register on the website to attend or to pitch, whichever way you want to do it. But if you do attend to pitch, you will hear from Maureen with instructions on how to pitch and so on and so forth. And we will look forward to working with you further. And by the way, reminder, there is a very rich podcast channel that has just gone live. If you are in a commute situation, if you have to commute by metro or driving or whatever, this is great material that you can go through in the next few weeks, and you will be enlightened on how investors think about business opportunities to invest in. Talk to you soon. See you back here next time. Goodbye and good luck.